The Empower Hour series was created for all of the women out there who have done everything they were supposed to do in life and are struggling to discover what's next. I see you. You know there's so much more out there, but you just don't know how to align with what's next for you. Well, you're not going to struggle anymore. It's time for you to create your new path and fall in love with your life over and over again. See that badass woman over there who has discovered what's next for her? Let's go ask her to share how she did it and become inspired. And if she can discover what's next, so can you. Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the EmpowHER Hour series. Today, we have an amazing guest. Her name is Bobbi Ocker, and Bobbi and I met on the amazing platform Clubhouse, probably within the first day or two, probably that we were on Clubhouse, and it was like an instant connection, which is so incredible. And I'm so excited to have her here so she could share her inspirational story. Bobbi is a mom. She's a mama. She's a special ed, a 7th grade special ed teacher. And she also has a side business that's very interesting and pretty awesome. And on top of that, she has an incredible story of transformation and getting through barriers that popped up at frequent times in her life. So I am going to welcome Bobbi to our show. It's so great to have you here. And we're seeing each other in real life too, for like the first time ever, which we never do.
The first time. And it's amazing. I love seeing you.
It absolutely is. It's so great. So Bobbi, why don't you start by taking us way back to when, I guess, like high schoolish, when that's where it's the origin of your story, I think, when you were getting ready to graduate and you were trying to figure out what was next for you.
So I was getting ready to graduate. I had no idea what I wanted to be when I grew up. I wanted to go to college, but my parents told me if I wanted to do it, then I needed to pay for it. And I didn't know how to do any of that and didn't have a ton of support from them because they didn't go to college either. It just wasn't an expectation for them. And it wasn't an expectation for me. And I'm just like, okay, that's fine. This is life. I'm just going to graduate high school and start working. And that's exactly what I did. I ended up in a retail store, in a basement. I literally worked in a basement. It was the junior department. So it was really cool clothes, right? I had clothes, but it was minimum wage. So like, I knew I couldn't stay there forever. I was there for about a year, and walked one day a lady that worked in a human resources department at the hospital in the town in which I was working. And she's like, I want to hire you. Like, go fill out an application. I want you to be my secretary. Well, I didn't even know what the heck to do with that. Are you kidding? Like, I'm not a secretary. I was never a secretary. My attention to detail sucks. I'm probably going to be, I was excited though, over the moon. I think my starting salary was $8.09 an hour. I will never forget that. I was so excited. So it was full time. I worked there probably 3 years, and then they started cutting positions. And they took my position from full-time down to part-time. And I started to rethink everything. And I'm like, I don't want to be stuck in a job where I am going nowhere and that they have this much control over what happens with me.
Right.
So that's where I started thinking, I'm 4 years out of high school. I'm going to go to college. Like, I'm going to do this. My mom was a teacher's aide growing up in a special ed classroom. I'm like, I'm going to be a teacher. That's what I'm going to do. I'm one of the weird people that when I was a kid, I had no idea I wanted to be a teacher. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I don't know. I just didn't dream. I feel like I didn't dream. I thought I would be in broadcasting. I think I talked to you about this. And
yes, you did.
And Clubhouse is my way of like talking to people, right? And meeting people and connecting people. And and I feel like I'm living that dream out a little bit too. But yeah, so that's how I decided to start going to school.
That's amazing. And having, you were the first person in your family to go to college.
Yes.
Which is pretty amazing. And having had, being in a position where your parents, that's not the path they followed, and having I have to figure this all out on my own. I don't have anybody who's giving me this direction to do this, because they hadn't experienced it before. And I think a lot of times when we have to figure stuff out that is the great unknown, it's really scary and it's really difficult, especially you were working retail, you had somebody come in and approach you, offer you this wonderful job at the time that you were so blown away by, and then without knowing, it was pulled out from under you and you had to make a choice. So can you talk a little bit about, at that young age that you were, what enabled you to take those steps forward with all of those obstacles that were in your way?
So it was really hard, right? Like the financial aid piece, all the things that like your parents, I think, typically do, and I will do for my kids. But like, and now here I am, a young adult, and I'm like, I have to do this. It's funny because I just put my mind to it and I did it, and I just followed every step. I had another friend that was kind of in the same situation as me. Her husband was in the Navy. So she went to school later. She let him go through his Navy career. I think having her helped me, motivated me. Seeing what she was doing definitely was something, but then my internal motivation, right? Like I knew that in the end, once I jumped through 10,000 hoops with whatever I needed to do to go to school, I knew I would be better. And I knew that education, me going to college, no one can ever take that from me. No one can take my degree from me. I paid for this on my own, so I appreciate it, right? Like I wasn't a typical student who was just trying to figure out, I didn't have, I was a commuter. I was driving to school. That's what we were referred to as. We were like the old people. I would sit up in the lounge, but you meet a lot of people that were like you. And I think that that's what helped me too, initially, especially because I was terrified. I was scared of life. I needed my mom for everything. I needed my boyfriend at the time for everything. Like I didn't do anything on my own. I was very codependent. Oh, so bad. But
that's a great word though.
I know. But it's very true. I needed people more than they needed me. And once I went to school and started doing things, I started to realize I could do it on my own. And that's when the light bulb went off for me. And it's going to be so good for me in the end. So I think I always tried to think of the future, and that helped me get through it all.
That makes so much sense. And I know that you use the word codependent as you didn't have the confidence that within yourself independently that you could follow through with different things. And the push that you saw that you almost saw the finish line. You saw that if I'm able to get through this, I know that it's going to take me somewhere. I know that it's going to be worth it. And having that be almost that fuel that you needed, but also recognize that it was the first time in your life that you were able to step into what I like to say, step into your power and step into your understanding that you absolutely could do this independently because you didn't have another way. You didn't have another choice. You didn't have somebody that was holding your hand and walking you through this. If I was going to do this, I had to do this independently. And I think that that's an amazing pivot it sounds like in your story too, as you described, where that light bulb went off. So take us to that. So you go to school, you go to college, you're a commuter, you're the old person on the that's just to use your words.
Yeah, it's this crazy story, but to be 100% transparency, I got married right before I started. My first marriage was right before I started school, but was very dependent on him for financially and insurance wise. Like I just didn't have that freedom. So then I get through school, I realize I can do these things on my own. I graduate, I am hired pretty quick, offered 2 different jobs, 2 different places, 2 different states. Ended up staying in New York, or coming to New York, because at the time I was living in Pennsylvania. And then just realized like I could do things on my own and I didn't need to be so dependent. So the person that my ex-husband, he needed me to be dependent on him because that was the relationship that we had. Okay. And I didn't need him in that way anymore. And I knew that at that point I needed to make a change. And we went through a divorce. But everything, it came out, I'm good. I'm all good now. But it was hard. And it was hard. Even my job, I was in my first year teaching, going through a divorce. I mean, like there were a lot of changes, right? A lot of things that I could have been like, this is too much. I'm not going to do it. But I'm like, no, I will. And it was a beautiful experience. I look at it now and I'm like, I wouldn't be who I am and where I am right now had I not gone through all that hard stuff. We all have stuff.
Yes. Yes. And that's a great reminder. So fresh out of college, you were married before you started college, fresh out of college. Not only are you navigating your first year of teaching, which are obstacles and hoops within in and of themselves, right? But now you're experiencing your marriage is you're experiencing a divorce. You're going through that process too. So all of those transitions and all of those changes, but the perspective that you have, that if I didn't endure all of that difficulty, it wouldn't have created the person I am today. And that's a great reminder, because anyone who's watching this now who might be going through something and sees, and as you did, has a vision of what they see on the other side of that finish line, but the day-to-day feels so difficult right now, and it might not feel worth it to continue down that path. That's a really great reminder that, hey, stuff happens sometimes that is out of your control, or maybe it's something that you need to do in your life to shift into a new space that isn't easy, but it's creating a new path to where you're going to go.
Exactly. And that's the way I felt. And that's the way I feel now. I mean, when you're in it, it's raw and it hurts and things are hard and you don't want to hurt anyone and you don't want to be hurt and all the feels, right? But
Yes.
knowing that there is an end to it and it won't always be that way. I think that's where sometimes I think we can get in our own heads and get in our own way. And that's where we get stuck. But I'm like, nope, that's not going to happen with me. It sucks right now, but I know it'll be better in the end. And it is.
Yeah. And even when you were going through that time, you had that mentality of, no, this is not going to happen to me. I'm not going to get pulled back. I've come too far. I'm going to keep going. So what empowered you? I know you talked about knowing that there was more for you, knowing that you were working really hard to get to where you were. What other things, like, what are the things, like the other scripts you would tell yourself when you said, no, I'm going to keep going? Or was there anything else that helped you to move along?
I think I had a great friend group. I really did have a good, positive friend group. I had just a core group of people that helped me get through. I would also say I started traveling. I started doing things that I couldn't do before. I was too afraid to do before. Since I had a better job, I could do, right? So I think that kind of opened my eyes too. Like, this world is bigger than this small little town I was in. And I knew that I just didn't want to stay stuck where I was. So I think that was the traveling piece, I think, really was a big motivator for me for more, because I knew that I could do more and I saw different cultures, and it wasn't like this bubble of people that everybody looked the same and everybody acted the same. And I feel like that helped me.
That's great. So not only did now having a career, I can now travel, I can do things that I might not have otherwise been able to do, or I hadn't been able to do in my life. And let me grab this opportunity and step into it, because I want to experience more. There's more to it than just here. And I think that's huge too. I know, personally, I didn't make choices like that when I was in my 20s. And that's the one thing I always tell people who are like, getting out of college or in college or getting out of college. And they're like, what's the one thing you would tell people? And I always say, travel. I never did it. I was so afraid. I was afraid to spend the money. I was afraid to get out of my bubble, my comfort zone. And that's the one big regret that I have in my life. So I'm glad that you didn't let that hold you back. You took that and ran with it. And it sounds like that was a very instrumental piece in your story as well.
Yeah, I taught at my school for 3 years, and then an opportunity popped up 3 years in to teach internationally at the International School of Aruba. So I'm like, now's the time. I'm 30 at this point. I'm 30. I'm like, okay, time's to do it. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it now, because I knew that I eventually was going to find someone in my life. And so I did it. I went through, there's like 10,000 hoops. That I could have said no to that too, because teaching international, you have to have everything, the notary notarized. Like, I don't know how else to explain it. Everything, they have to make sure you are who you are and you have what you have. And it was hard and it was money, but that also was a beautiful experience.
That's amazing. I think that's so at the age of 30, you had the opportunity to go teach in Aruba, of all places.
Yeah, third grade.
For that's amazing. And I remember you sharing that with me early on when we first connected. And I just am so inspired by that. Now, again, going back to, the people who are listening and they're like, how is she doing all of this stuff? Like, isn't she afraid? Isn't there what she's just choosing to do this and jumping into it? Was there like a back and forth? Was there like, I can't do this. What am I thinking? How did you, again, like, what was that dialogue that you had in your head, and how did you manage to get past that?
There definitely was a dialogue in my head. And when I decided to go to Aruba, I didn't even have a job, to be honest. But what I did do with my district was ask for a leave of absence, and I was granted it. They gave me a year. They gave me a year as long as I didn't find a job. If I found a job, then I would have to resign, because legally you can't have two jobs. You can't have them hold a job and you have a job. It's not legal. So I got there. Before I got there, it was a lot of back and forth. I didn't know if I should, but I'm like, if I don't do this, I'm going to regret it. And why not just do it, and we'll figure it out. There's 100 things to be afraid of, but there's 1,000 things to not be afraid of. I would be living on the beach. My quality of life will be better. I mean, I'm born and raised in the woods of Pennsylvania and the sticks of Pennsylvania. So like, this is my opportunity to go and see different cultures. My students all spoke English, but they spoke 6 different languages. They were so incredibly smart. They're all grown now. They're all grown up. It was a beautiful experience. I ended up selling my car, but to my brother. So it actually worked out well, because when I came home, then I had my car back. And it was at the time of the school year where I had this summer, right? I really had this summer to figure out if this was really going to work.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing with it, as being a teacher, like we have summers to figure things out. Like, moving to Aruba. I'm not saying many people do that, but I'm really glad I did it.
That's amazing. And I love what you said, Bobbi, when you said, I had 100 reasons why I shouldn't do it, but I had 1,000 reasons why I should. And I feel that, especially when, women show up on my door, as I say it, or not my door, but they get on discovery calls with me, or they're looking to me to help them take those steps forward. Oftentimes they might also have 1,000 reasons why they should, but 100 reasons why they shouldn't. But the 100 reasons why they shouldn't feel so heavy and so big and so strong that it weighs them down and almost adds blinders on their face so that they can't see the other options. They can't see the other 1,000 that are so many more reasons than to just stay stuck and to stay just comfortable and stay in your lane, stay in your bubble, as we're saying, right? So that's awesome. I'm so grateful that you took that leap and that you chose to go to Aruba, which is probably, again, I think that's another step and another path in your story that takes us so tell us about that piece. Like when you went there, when you're there, you're living on the beach, holy crap, like you're in this amazing paradise, right? You're in this amazing place.
Okay, so I moved there for a boy. I know, I feel like my story is all about love. So whatever, it is what it is. But it was someone I knew and someone that was from my hometown. So it wasn't like a stranger from Aruba. But he was teaching there at the time. I ended up getting hired. It was awesome. The kids were great. It didn't work out with him. And everyone told me, they're like, this is not, and this is another thing before I went, everyone's like, don't do it. You're doing it for the wrong reasons. Well, everyone could tell me that all they wanted, but I had my mind made up. I'm like, I'm going, I'm going to do this. And it's sink or swim. I can come back home if I need to. So, long story short, it didn't work out. It didn't work out. So I then, at that point, I'm like, I can't stay on this island because all of his friends were there and they weren't my friends. And I was only there for 6 months. I'm like, I'm going to have to come home. It was Christmas at this point. It was just where we had like 3 weeks off for Christmas break or something. So I got on the phone with the district I left, which I did end up resigning because I took the job in Aruba. And they said, we have a job. If you want to come back, we have a job at the middle school and we would love to have you. And if you want to wait until June, if you want to finish out what you're doing right now, that's fine. But if you want to come back, we have a job for you. So at that point, I actually was meeting with a counselor online, and it was before Zoom. This was like 10 years ago, guys.
Oh my God, that's really innovative.
Yeah. And he's actually one of my friends on Facebook. I really adore him, but he got me through some tough times. I didn't even know I needed him more than he even knew I needed him. Like,
wow.
Because the day that everything happened with the boy and I ended up having by chance a Skype counseling session with him that night. So he got me through a lot of things because I didn't have anyone there. I literally had maybe one friend, one girl that I moved in with her when everything happened. But he told me, he gave me some really, really good advice. And he said, make a list of pros and cons for staying. And I did that. And at that point, the pros outweighed the cons. So I came home. My decision to come home was made, and I flew first class home because I
deserved it. Good for you. Good for you.
And the only time in my life, but you know, I'm like, yep, I'm doing it. So
the first time in your life, it might not be the first time in your life until now, but beyond, it might not be the only time.
Right. That's right. So yeah, that's what got me back home, back to the town. And at the time, that was hard. That was probably one of the hardest things that I had ever gone through. Like a heartbreak is very hard. I always say if I have a superpower, I would heal a broken heart. If it's a passing or if it's a love, like it's hard. It's hard. I hate those feelings, and it's raw and it's real and it's emotional. And it would have been really easy for me to give up then, but I didn't.
Yeah. Right. Right. So you go to Aruba, things didn't work out with the guy, things didn't work out. You chose to come home, and you look at all of, but look at all of the things. I always like to point this out. I'm a huge, and you know this about me, Bobbi, I'm a huge believer in the universe, and everything kind of unfolds and happens when it's meant to, even if it feels like crap at the time. But the fact that you made that hard choice, that your therapist at the time asked you to write that pros and cons list, and you wrote that list, and you called your school district, and maybe it was reversed, but even the fact that you called your school district and they were like, oh, we got a position for you. What? Like that's,
I know.
So all of the signs.
So like that's why I took all of this into account. I didn't book a flight until I knew I had a job. I knew I needed a job. Like that was, I have to pay my bills, right? Like that is something, if I have to stay there and be uncomfortable, I will stay there and be uncomfortable. At least I can go to the beach on Sundays, right?
Yeah. That's true, right? If I'm going to be uncomfortable, I'm going to be uncomfortable in Aruba.
Right. Exactly. I mean,
better than here. but I think that is, there were a couple of things. So you were not impulsive in your return. It was very calculated, but the way in which everything kind of, I can't go home until I find a job, and I'm really uncomfortable. Ooh, boom, here's a job. Okay, great. I don't know if here's the pros list. This makes more sense. Let me go home. Like all of these things were pointing you towards what you needed to do next. And you listened to them. You listened to the signs that you were getting, that you were receiving, that were directing you back to home. So you get home, and you started working in the school when you got home.
I did. Yes. And so another piece of my story that I don't think I've talked about is that I've always had like some type of a side hustle, right? Like I've always done, always been a teacher, but then I've always found another way to supplement my income. Yes. I feel like I'm a little entrepreneur. I have that spirit. I have that.
You are an entrepreneur. That is an entrepreneur. Yeah, absolutely.
But I love my teaching job too. So I got home, I started teaching again, and then I started bartending, which I had done all through college. It's always been something I've done, and I've always loved it. I love people. I love that piece of it. So then when I got home, I was doing those two things, moved in with a friend for a month because I had no place. I was waiting for my apartment to get ready, got my apartment. And I for 3 years, I was alone. I was single. It was actually really good. And I think that the universe gave that to me because I had never really had that.
Yeah. Yep. Going back to that codependency, right? And that relationship, and always needing somebody, and not valuing or understanding that you could do that by yourself. You could be by yourself and be okay.
And that awesome counselor, that awesome therapist that I saw, I remember never forget him one time saying, once I got home and I got settled and I was meeting with him still, he said, Bobbi Jo, you need to think there's going to come a day that you're not going to be able to just walk out the door and only think about yourself. He said, enjoy where you're at right now. And he was right.
You had that. That was the gift of those 3 years.
Yes.
Those were your 3 years for you.
They were. And just a lot of self-reflecting and figuring out what I wanted and who I wanted to be with, and what kind of what I wanted to do moving forward in that with my relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. So then you had the 3 years, and then I imagine after those 3 years, or during those 3 years, at some point you aligned and met my husband.
Yes, everything worked out, guys. I was like, so for a while there, it was pretty scary, but I knew that there were bigger plans for me. So yeah, we met on Match.com. I don't even know if
Great.
I'm sure it's still around.
I think it's still around. Yeah.
So when I met him, he had 2 kids, and they were 4 and 5. And so yeah, the rest is history. That was 9 years ago. Like, I can't believe it. I even can say that out loud. We have one of our own. Maddie and Preston are the older 2, and they're almost 13 and 14, which is crazy. And then Harper, our youngest, is 3. So when I walk out the door, normally there's someone walking out with me.
There's someone walking out with you, and and you have other people to think about, like your therapist had said to you, but you did honor that time where it was only you that you were thinking about. So with that said, you spoke a little bit about, I've always had a side hustle. I've always done something else. You talked about the bartending, and there's something else that you aligned with a while ago that is I feel like you're so passionate and you're such a great teacher, working with your students, and such a great inspiration to them. But there's something else that you found along the way that you've poured into.
Now I'm going to rewind to when I was 9 years old. I'm going to tell a little bit of the backstory and why I aligned so well with this side hustle. So when I was 9 years old, I was diagnosed with a disease in my hip. And as I was in braces, I'll make this the abridged version. I was in braces, 45-degree angle, 23 out of 24 hours a day. I had them on. I could take off my braces to take a bath. I had a special desk at school. I think this is why I'm a special ed teacher. My mom had to take me into school, and yeah, I never let it stop me. That could have stopped me too. And
that could have stopped you.
Never, ever.
From a young age, here you are. Yes.
Yeah. I literally would dance in my braces. Like, it just didn't stop me. And I was in 2nd grade though. So kids aren't mean then. It all worked out. But now fast forward as an adult, like, I literally had to learn how to walk all over again. Wow. when I was diagnosed, after I came out of the braces, because I had not used my muscles in my legs for a year and a half. So I was in physical therapy, had to learn how to walk again. But as an adult, I had a lot of pain in my joints because of that. And I was told that by the time I was 40, here I am, 30. No, it was 30. By the time I was 30, I would have to have a total hip replacement.
Wow.
So I was popping like medicines all the time, right? Like Advil, Tylenol, nothing. I had never gotten to the point where I needed like heavy duty stuff, but I knew I was on my way. Okay. So now fast forward, I'm looking for things that could possibly help me. And one of my friends started selling CBD oil. And I'm like, tell me about this. And she did. And it was a network marketing company. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to try this, because there was an empty bottle guarantee. I could get my money back if it didn't work. So I'm like, what the hell do I have to lose? Zero. Right. I'm just going to do it. Once I got it, once I started using it, I have life change. Sure. It's game changer. I don't want to, there's a lot of disclaimers. I don't want to say.
Of course, we understand. Yes.
But I will say that I have not touched Advil or Tylenol since I've been taking the oil. So my pain is gone. So for me, if I didn't share this with other people, I feel like I'd be doing everyone a disservice. So that's how I got into the space. And it's a space that kind of sells itself. Like, it's something that a lot of people need, don't want. Yeah. So it's an interesting, it's more personal. So like, I'm educating people in a different way in that side hustle. Yes. But it's been a blessing. Like that, I always talked bad about network marketing. Always. I'm like, that is fake. It's a pyramid. Blah, blah, blah. And now I'm like, no, it's not, guys. It's like legit. Like, you can actually make some money with this. And you can help people. For me, I don't care about the money. It's helping people. Yeah. That's what does it for me.
Which I think aligns with the core values that you have as a teacher as well, where you're so passionate about what you do, and you use the word education connected to this business that you have aligned with, that you're educating people. You took what worked for you, what found that you worked for you, and that idea of, I don't want to keep this to myself. I don't want to be selfish with this. And even again, we've talked about throughout your story, Bobbi, how there's been obstacles, there's been barriers, there's been 100 reasons why I shouldn't, but 1,000 reasons why I should. And that whole concept of, as you said, I had assumptions about network marketing and what that meant. I don't want to be one of those people. And this is a pyramid, and all of those things could have kept you from moving forward into where you are right now with this passion and helping others. And that didn't prevent, that's it again, theme here, that didn't stop you when it could have.
And I feel like that's my theme of my life. It's funny because when I reflect it, as you and I were talking about my story, I feel like sometimes I think my story is in my network marketing, and it's not. My story is there's so much more. There's so much more to all of us. It's not just me. It's so much more to everyone. And it's
so much more.
It's important to like just love on all those hard times, because it's not always hard, but you can't get stuck in the hard. I think and that's hard sometimes, I realize, but.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's where many people stop. They have a spark, they have a passion, they see something on the other side of something, like they're like, oh, I could do that, or oh, they're doing it, I could do that. But then and I'm using it, I don't care if I'm using it a million times because I love the analogy, 100 reasons why I shouldn't, but they don't focus on the 1,000 reasons why they should. They don't focus on, they focus on the this, and they don't focus on the this. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what leaves people in that position where they just don't get out of their own damn way, like I love to say. And that's the whole concept behind my program called the What's Next Project. Is it enables women in particular who are stuck in that position to use strategies to get unstuck from that position. And you are such an inspiration, Bobbi, because even though you recognize that you had those moments, like we all do, you figured out how to get out of that. You saw the 1,000 reasons why, and you didn't want to let those 100 reasons pull you back and hold you back, which is so incredible.
I think the way that we talk to ourselves is so important. I think the internal conversation that you're having with yourself, I think that has kept me in a positive state of mind. I'm so far from perfect. We all have our moments, but I do think that that's the one thing that has helped me so much, and staying positive, and not to a fault positive, but like, I'm a realist too. I have my moments, but I think that as much as you can, look at that glass half full, because life's too dang short. And that's the one thing I've learned as an adult. Like, enjoy the things that you work freaking hard for. Enjoy them and take the risks. I'm not going to go to my grave, and I'm not going to, I'm not going to feel bad about anything, regardless of how it turned out. It didn't turn out the way I wanted it to, right? How I went into it. All these situations didn't turn out the way I thought they were to, but I didn't let that stop me.
Right. And there were many of them along the way, but I feel like what I love about your story is you did not use the things that were meant to throw you off course. You didn't let them do that. It sounds like almost you use them as building blocks. You use them as, okay, this didn't work out, but let me do this. This didn't work out, but let me do this. And because you kept going, you found it. You got there. You got to where you needed to go. You did not turn around and walk away. There's a and if I can find it, I'll post it in the comments, but there's a cartoon that I saw not too long ago, and it's of two coal miners. And I don't know if you've seen this before. So the cartoon is one on top of the other, and they're both at the same spot. And on the other side of the wall are diamonds. And one guy, and they both did the same amount of work. And the one guy has turned around with his little pickaxe on the back of his shoulder, and he's walking away, and the other guy keeps going. And the whole concept of it is you don't know when you're going to find the diamonds on the other side, right? And if you give up, it could be right there and you would never have known it. And it's just such a powerful image, and your story is reminding me of that cartoon.
And I love that. And I have not seen it, but I want to see it. So please put it in the comments. I would love to.
I will. And if I find it before, I'll shoot it your way for sure.
But what's funny is, like, now in my life with my husband and with our kids, we are blessed to have a second home. We live in upstate New York, but we are blessed to have a second home in Alabama where we can go to. I never when I was going through all the things I was going through, I never thought that I would own one home, let alone two. So
Wow.
me giving my kids all the opportunities that I never had is that's my win.
That's
That's
your huge win. Yes. That's right. And I know that and I can hear the emotion, and absolutely that is so powerful, because again, you did not stop, and that you had a desire. I want to just own one home, but now you own two. And now you've set up your life, not only so that your kids can have it differently than you did, but look at who your kids are looking to. Look at who, Harper's looking to, and Maddie,
Yep.
and
Maddie, Preston.
and Preston, Maddie and Preston and Harper. Look at who they're looking at. Look at who they're watching. Continue to grow and kick ass and take the next step and not be afraid. And what an inspiration for them.
That's so awesome. It's so cute.
Yeah.
It's hard. I mean, it's hard to, we run, Suzanne and I run this group on Tuesday nights on Clubhouse, Own Your Wins and Your Superpowers. And we talk about how hard it is to talk about good things, but
Yep.
it is important to own it and be proud of everything that you've gone through.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is so important. And I'm so grateful that you are here sharing your story with all of our viewers. And I know that somebody, and probably more than one somebody, has connected and said, oh my gosh, listen to Bobbi Jo's story. And if she can do this, I can do this too. And that's the right.
You can. And I think that I said this to you before we started. Like, I don't think looking back at my story, I wasn't set up for success in any way, shape, or form. I should not be where I'm at. I should not be where I'm at. And I know some people think the same thing, but you can.
Yeah. And just reflecting back really quick, and I'm so glad that you brought it up, and you brought us back there to when you were 9 years old, and you were impacted physically, and even describing it, I'm envisioning the 9-year-old version of you dancing in your braces and just rocking and loving life, and just that, how all encompassing, because that little girl is still inside of you. That little girl is you, but that little girl, and the limitations that you could have had, right? You had to learn to walk again. You had to go through that physical therapy. You were given a prognosis that you're probably going to have major surgery at some point in your life. And instead of harping on that and thinking about that and saying, oh my gosh, when is that going to happen? When's the next shoe going to drop? It doesn't sound like that stopped you from what you had to do.
No.
It almost was like, in a sense, it almost seems like it was like, all right, give me something else. Bring it on.
It's
I got this.
I feel like that kid on we all have that kid on the basketball court. If you've ever played horse, and like, you can't do this. You can't. These were my favorite moments. And I'm not even athletic, but I loved it. I loved it when someone told me I couldn't do something, because I just would prove them wrong. And I feel like that's my mantra. I think that's what's got me.
Prove them wrong. Yeah, I love that. And you proved, in a sense, going back to what you had said about, I shouldn't be here where I am right now, or based on where I came from, I shouldn't be here based on and you proved yourself, in a sense, you proved your own self wrong.
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah. I love that. So let's share a little bit. It's going to be in the comments below. Bobbi, if people are listening and they're resonating with you, or they're wanting to get in touch with you, what is the best way? I always ask people to say it verbally, even though we do put the links below.
That's okay. I'm on Facebook. I'm very active on Facebook. Bobbi Ocker. Instagram, Bobbi Ocker. Do you see a trend? Clubhouse. You guys can find me. And I have links and all the things that I do and things that I share. But I'm very, I would say Facebook is where I'm most active. I'm trying to get better about Instagram. But yeah. So yeah, If you guys want to reach out, I love meeting new people. I love talking to new people. Not only if you want to buy some oil, but I actually love hearing stories. Yeah. If you're ever in a place where you feel like you need to talk, I love helping. We're helpers. That's what Suzanne and I are. That's what we do.
Absolutely. And I can second that. Bobbi is extremely inspirational and she's extremely supportive. And the rooms that we run on Clubhouse on Tuesday night, she's always like the biggest cheerleader and cheering everyone on, and her energy is just really contagious. So definitely go ahead and reach out if you resonated with her, or come hang out with us on Clubhouse on Tuesday nights at 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. In the evening. We'd love to have you. So again, thank you so much, Bobbi, for being here. It was an honor to have you on and share your story with so many. And just for everybody listening, I referenced it a little bit before, but if you're in a place where that 100 reasons why you shouldn't are weighing you down, certainly click the link below, get on a free discovery call with me so I can share with you how we can take you from that to what's next for you through our 90-day process. And remember, guys, the last thing I always say before I end the show is just because you've done everything in life that you're supposed to do does not mean that you've done everything in life that you're meant to do. Thank you so much for hanging out, and we will catch you on the next episode.